So we begin tonight with a quotation from the Buddha, from the Vinaya, where it says, whatever we do in this life will bring a definite result. So we are going to begin the presentation of the law of cause and effect. Last week, or the last 2 or 3 weeks, we looked into refuge, how to go for refuge, what are the commitments after having gone for refuge. And a big issue in refuge is fear. So we have very strong fear for the suffering of the 3 lower migrations. And we look at the entirety of samsara as being in the nature of suffering. So really we need to question, why is it that we have so much fear for this suffering in the lower migrations, or the suffering in samsara? The reason for that is because we have not been able to control the activity of our 3 doors, and therefore we have engaged in inappropriate activity and have created a lot of negative karma. So we have created negative karma and imprints of negativity over many past lives. And this, of course, is something that we should be very comprehensive about. We should be afraid of all this negativity. So when we have that fear for whatever negative karma we created and we carry, the next question is, who has the power to protect us? So we go for refuge to the Buddha jewel, who is the teacher, the Dharma jewel, who is the actual protection, and the Sangha jewel, who support us in our practice. Now, we mentioned about the trainings or the commitments that come with refuge. And if we are able to keep those commitments properly, one of the benefits is that this has the power to completely remove karmic obscurations. So this is how we come into the presentation of karma, following the presentation of refuge. And it's very important that we have the faith of belief for the law of cause and effect. So as the Buddha has said, everything that we do in this life, everything we do will bring about a result. So whatever we do in this life, whether we engage in virtue or non-virtue, that will definitely bring about its corresponding result. The result of virtue will be happiness, and the result of non-virtue will be suffering. And this is definite. This was a very clear, definite proclamation of the Buddha. And the example that is given here is that if you plant a seed, let's say of chili, or something that is hot, peppery, the fruit that you will get when the plant grows will not be sweet, right? It will be a peppery, hot, burning fruit. So this is an example of the definite result. So this presentation of the law of cause and effect is quite extensive and very subtle and profound. It is said that karma, the presentation of karma, is more subtle, is more profound even than emptiness. Usually we consider emptiness to be a very subtle, a very profound subject. However, emptiness can be directly realized by Arya beings, and then those Arya beings can explain it and communicate it to us. But when it comes to karma with all its details and subtlety, as the great beings such as Nagarjuna and his followers and so forth, they very clearly have said that it is only the Buddhas who can clearly see karma in its full extent, and they can really understand it. Of course, we can have like a superficial understanding, if you want, of karma on different levels, but to fully understand it, to fully see all the details of karma, you would have to be an enlightened being. There are different presentations in terms of what is the origin or who creates the happiness and the suffering and the experiences that we have. So we see there are many religious systems who present this idea of a God creator. And if you have a God creator, it is that God who creates your happiness or your suffering. All right. So also in Hinduism, they believe in Ishvara, who is the creator of the world, and he is the one that gives out happiness or suffering. If we look at the scientific presentation, of course, they do not speak about a God creator. And I have some presentation of obviously, things combining together and bringing about results. On an atomic level, you can have this combination of atoms and protons and ions and so forth. They interact and they produce something. But of course, this is not the subtle presentation that we talk about. So in Buddhism, when we talk about the law of cause and effect, the way that we understand this and the way that we present it is in terms of the 12 links. So what happens in your mind, according to this presentation of the 12 links? We have consciousness at the time of the cause, and we deposit different karmic imprints upon this consciousness. And then we have consciousness at the time of the result. So let's say due to your actions, you are reborn as an animal, and then we look at what happens at the consciousness at the time of the result. Mm-hmm. In the great text, we see that there is a very clear division of phenomena. On one side, we have permanent phenomena, and on the other side, we have functioning or impermanent phenomena. These are phenomena that disintegrate or change momentarily. So the presentation of the law of cause and effect only applies to impermanent phenomena. You cannot talk about the law of cause and effect in terms of permanent entities. So it has to be impermanent. And if it is impermanent, something is an impermanent entity, then it is pervasive, that it operates under the law of cause and effect. When we talk about the law of cause and effect, or when we talk about causation, cause and result, this can be seen externally as well as internally. So when we talk about causality externally, you can bring in mind things such as, sowing seeds in a field and then getting a crop out of this, or sowing some seeds of flowers and then getting flowers blooming out of this. When it refers to these external, to external phenomena, we do not apply the term law of cause and effect. The term presentation or the law of cause and effect is something that applies to internal phenomena. And when we talk about internal phenomena, we talk about the case where you have someone who is an agent. The agent carries out an activity, and as a result of this activity, the agent will have an experience of happiness or suffering. So it could happen in this life, in past life, in the future life, and so forth. Okay, so as we say, this presentation of the law of cause and effect is something that the Buddha has expounded in great detail and very clearly in a number of sutras. They're all very famous, important texts. So the question here, when we talk about the law of cause and effect, if we take an example, someone like us who has obtained the precious human rebirth, and we say that the precious human rebirth is something that comes about as a result of having maintained ethics, of abandoning the 10 non-virtuous actions, engaging in the practice of the 6 perfections, doing stainless prayers, and so forth. Okay, so look at this question, because we need to ask this question. How come we have come into this life with all our senses complete, with intelligence, with everything, all the favorable conditions in place? How come we have this precious human rebirth? Once you start asking this question, you will see that there is not much room for a God creator. It's not that some God created this and gave it to you as a gift, right? So Geshe was saying, I don't know exactly what is the presentation according to the scientific views on this point. However, in terms of Buddhism, very clearly, we say that all of this is due to the power of the karma. So how does that work? So very clearly, Lam Tsongkhapa, in his text on the middle way view, talks about the I, or the person. And he says, we have the person of the previous life, and that comes into this life as a specific person, a specific individual, and then this will continue as the bardo, the person of the bardo, and then the person of the next life, and so forth. So what happens is that upon the person of the previous life, imprints of virtue of maintaining abandoning the 10 non-virtuous actions, right? So those imprints are placed upon the individual of the previous life. They are activated at the time of death, and then we arrive in this life and we have the person of this life that then has the precious human rebirth. Okay. So the question might arise and the doubt might arise when we discuss the law of cause and effect, because someone might say, in this life, I don't harm anyone. I engage in practices. I have the wish to benefit others. I do pujas. I'm inclined to virtue and I do a lot of practices, right? So at the same time, I do encounter suffering and difficulties. So how is this possible? So here, when we want to give an answer to this question, the very important thing is to recognize that we're not talking just about this life. Actually, we accept that we have countless, endless previous lifetimes. And again, there will be endless lifetimes going into the future. So for sure, if in this life you have the tendency to do practice, to do puja, to benefit others, this certainly indicates that in your previous life, you have placed this type of imprints of virtue, imprints of that make you be inclined to do those practices, definitely in your mind. But since we have before us, we have gone through countless lifetimes. During those countless lifetimes, we have actually accumulated all sorts of different types of karma. So it's not just what we do in this life. So it's not just like a limited, obvious amount of virtue that we do in this life. Mm-hmm. The presentation of the law of cause and effect is completely true, is not deceptive. So actually, we can very clearly see around us in society the causes and results. We can see that there are various results, and they must come from different causes. And the most clear, obvious example of this is the great difference and the great variety that we see in society, right? So we're all humans, or if you want, we're talking about humans here, we're all humans, but everyone is completely different. Even if you get two people that look alike, maybe twins or something, nevertheless, they will have differences. Or if two people, let's say, speak in a very similar manner, they will look differently. Or even if they speak in a similar manner, they move in a different way. So we have great possibilities of differences and variety. So what is the reason for that? The reason for that is past karma. And if you want to look at a different example of variety that comes due to karma, you can look at the children that are born in the same family from the same parents. And you see they all have different traits, different characteristics. Some are very intelligent. Some are very religious. Some have great affinity with the parents and want to support the parents. Some are very clever with finances and trade and business and so forth. They all come from the same family. They all come from the same parents, but they're very different. And all of this is because a result of previous karma. So it's very important when we talk about the law of cause and effect to guard it. And when we say we have to guard the law of cause and effect, it is not something that you guard externally. Every individual must actually guard it and maintain it within themselves. So what that indicates is that karma refers to consciousness. In particular, according to the middle way consequence school, karma is definitely posited as consciousness. And this is where all the imprints are deposited. There is a presentation according to the lower school, the Great Exposition School, that poses karma as being substance. However, all the other schools talk about karma as being consciousness, being awareness. So in a period of, let's say, 24 hours in one day, we actually create hundreds of thousands of instances of karma. So we have been talking about the suffering of the three lower migrations, the suffering of the hells. And the thing is, the reason we give this presentation is because when you think about the suffering of hells, that motivates you to engage the practice of Dharma. So perhaps you do it when you first hear it, but you don't maintain that recollection of that. And therefore you do it for 5 minutes and then you forget about it and you don't engage in practice of Dharma. So we also do this there are many instances of doing that. So let's say, we did something, we had an argument with someone and we verbally abused that person. And then we go home and we calm down and we think about it and we say, oh, that was so inappropriate. I will never do that again. I will never get involved in an argument. I will never use this type of language. So you decide for yourself. But 3 days later, again, you find yourself in an argument, repeating the same behavior. Why do we repeat it? Although we have seen the fault, we repeat it because we don't have recollection. There are two principles. One is the law of cause and effect, and the other one is death and impermanence. And those two things are inescapable, right? So when we talk about death, when your time comes, when death comes, no one and nothing can stop it. So similarly, the law of cause and effect is something that once you have created, once you've done that action, there is nothing, no one who can intervene and say you don't have to experience the result. Even if you were to go to a king with great power, even if the king were to make laws that says you are exempt from the consequences, karmic consequences of your actions, that would never work. It would never protect you. So it is, the law of cause and effect is, as we say, infallible. There is no doubt about it. It is very certain. If you have engaged in virtuous activity, the result is certain to be happiness. If you engage in non-virtuous activity, the result is certain to be suffering. Even the Buddha could not intervene, like you have engaged in non-virtuous activity. The Buddha, with all its power, cannot intervene and with his hands kind of remove your negativities or remove the negative experience that will come from that. Okay. And also, like, for example, in society, the way we operate, if someone is sick, the idea is if you're sick, you go to the hospital and there the doctors will take care of you. The doctors will make you better. The medicine will improve your condition. All right. So this is the convention. This is what everyone is thinking. But actually, so many times people go to the hospital, they take the medicine, but the doctor is not able to protect them because their karma is such that they have to undergo this experience of death. Even the doctor himself is not beyond the law of cause and effect. Even the doctors get sick. Even the doctors have to die, and so forth. And we see that when someone is very sick, immediately we organize to have pujas and prayers, and we ask for most, what is to be done. But the thing is that ultimately everything is determined by karma. And even the Lama who does the prayers and the most and so forth, even that Lama is under the influence of the law of cause and effect. Mm-hmm. So usually in the text, when we discuss the subject of the law of cause and effect, there is this style of presentation where they give many stories. So you hear life stories, anecdotes, and they're all there to indicate how over many lifetimes we can see results of karma coming into maturation. And they're there really to clearly illustrate what is to be adopted as a practice and what should be abandoned in terms of karmic actions. So there is the story of this household. They were quite a big family, quite well off and so forth. But the father of the family was getting old. And as it is the case with old people, as you're getting old, maybe your nose is running, maybe some saliva is coming out of your mouth, maybe you don't smell very clean, and so forth. These are definite signs of aging. And the thing is with people, the older they get, the more there are these signs of aging, maybe not perfect hygiene and things like this. But it's important to treat older people in a very gentle manner so that their mind is not upset. So we need to accommodate them and be very gentle so that they will remain at this age with a relaxed state of mind. But what happened in this family was the complete opposite. The children of the old man were actually very embarrassed that their father was old and smelly. And they eventually decided that it was a disgrace to have him in the house, so they kicked him out of the house. So there he was. So he was on his own, and he decided that he wanted to receive ordination. He was devastated by what happened in the family, and definitely he wanted to take ordination. So some of the main disciples of the Buddhas, who were arhats themselves, they saw him, but rejected his application for ordination because they said, as far as we can see, you do not have any virtue to become ordained. So remember what we said about the karma, that the karma is very subtle, and even those who have reached the state of an arhat cannot perceive karma in its full extent. Only if a complete Buddha can understand karma fully. So the Buddha at that time heard about this case, and he said, no, bring him in and give him ordination. And the arhat who had rejected him said, yeah, but I looked in his past lives and I couldn't see any root of virtue. When did he accumulate the virtue to become ordained? And the Buddha said, in many, many lifetimes before, this old man was born as a beetle. So a beetle, one of those insects that eat dung. And there was a stupa, and there was a cow that dropped some dung near the stupa. And in his previous life, this man was born as this insect, this beetle that was in the dung. And as it was on a blob of dung, I don't know what you call it, the rain came, and the rain carried away the dung around the stupa. So that insect ended up being carried by the cow dung, and it circumambulated the stupa with no intention whatsoever. Even though it was unintentional, it created root of virtue. That this was the root of virtue that the Buddha recognized, and he said this person has enough root of virtue to become ordained. So remember, when we talk about karma, actually karma can be very powerful according to the field, or according in relation to whom you create this karma. And the stupas are very potent objects, like the Buddhas are very potent objects, so make a lot of difference. So even if you do it unintentionally. So on the basis of that virtue, the Buddha ordained him, and after his ordination, even at this old age, he reached the state of Buddhahood, of an arhat, sorry. So never think that we do not have merit or we do not have karma. Definitely, we have virtuous karma. We have many hundreds of thousands of imprints of virtuous karma. And the more we reduce negativity, the less we engage the 10 non-virtuous actions, the more those virtuous imprints will become more and more powerful. And there is a way of progressing, getting to a better state in this way. So the Buddha has very clearly talked about the 4 conditions that affect all of us, which is birth, aging, sickness, and death. There's a particular sutra of the Buddha in which he talks about the development of the embryo, like how conception takes place, and then all the stages of development during the 9 months. And it's an amazing text to read, really. And even scientists, today's scientists, are amazed to read at this presentation. Okay, so as I said, the Buddha talked about those 4 conditions that affect all of us. So aging definitely happens. We don't stay young. We change moment by moment. We age momentarily. And the things that we used to like to eat, for example, there comes a day where our stomach cannot tolerate them. If we eat this type of food, probably we will throw up. We cannot digest it. At the same time, we are told that we have to eat things that we do not like. So, for example, they tell us you have to cut this and that out of your diet, you have to eat very plain food, and you have to eat this medicine that tastes horrible. So a lot of things that we used to do, or a lot of things that we wish to continue doing, suddenly we cannot do. And many things we have no wish whatsoever to do, they are imposed upon us. So it's not just an issue of diet. You see what happens with aging, with old people. It's very obvious in society. Like 1 minute you can walk straight down the street, and then later on you cannot. You can hardly, move your legs, or you can hardly walk straight, and so forth. Many unwished for things come to us with aging. So all of those things are maturation of karma. We can see other cases of children that are born, and from the moment they are born, they come into this world with a lot of trouble, like very weak constitution. And although the doctor cannot diagnose any specific illness, nevertheless, these children, they grow up and they do not have the capacity, the ability that other healthy children have. Why did they come into this life with a condition like this? Because they are disadvantaged, right? They might have obtained a human body, a human rebirth, but they don't have the full power, they don't have the full capacity that other humans have. So this is definitely the result of previous karma. Okay, so as we say, the Buddha talked about the law of cause and effect. It is considered to be one of the most crucial presentations, very important. We talk about the law of cause and effect, and we say it's very important to have faith in karma, and also to understand that karma is unfailing. In the various Lam Rim texts, there is a very extensive presentation on this subject. Here, we don't have the time to elaborate so much. However, when we engage this subject in meditation, according to the Lam Rim, there are 4 main outlines. First of all, is what is the nature of karma. Secondly, we have classifications of karma. Third one is about the 4 types of results. So we have things like the ripen result, the environmental result that is concurrent with the cause, result that is concurrent with the activity. And finally, we have the presentation of what is to be practiced and what is to be abandoned, because we see that engaging in the 10 non-virtuous actions brings about a lot of the result of suffering, whilst engaging in the 10 virtuous actions brings about results of happiness. So these 4 main outlines are very important. Please keep them in mind. Okay, so we are going back into the essence of refined gold. We're at the top of page 15, the law of karma and its results. One may wonder, granted, taking refuge in the 3 jewels can protect me from the misery of lower rebirths, but how can I create the causes that bring about a high rebirth? So we talked a lot about the refuge, and we say that refuge is established, first of all, through fear for the suffering of the lower migrations, and also the confidence and the faith that the objects of refuge have the power to protect us. Okay, so we say they can protect us in this way, but how can I create the causes for a higher rebirth as a human or a god? And how can I avoid creating the causes for the lower migrations? So obviously, this is going to lead into the presentation that says, if you engage in the 10 non-virtuous actions, this will bring about result as its result, rebirth in the lower migrations. But if you engage in the 10 virtuous actions, this will lead in a higher rebirth as a god or a human. Okay, so it says here, it continues, it says, for this, we must consider the 4 aspects of karmic law. So important thing, first of all, is to recognize the nature of karma. And we say the nature of karma is that it is awareness. So not everything that is karma in this case is included within the presentation of the law of cause and effect. So to give you an example, neutral or unspecified karma. So neutral or unspecified karma is karma that is neither positive or virtuous nor negative. It's neither positive nor negative. So it's somewhere in between, is unspecified. And actually, there's a lot of this unspecified neutral karma that is created all the time. Also, the karma that exists in the continuum of the Buddha, it's not contaminated karma. And because it's uncontaminated karma, it is not karma that will bring about any rebirth in cyclic existence. So often when we talk about karma, it is described as white and black karma. So these terms, white and black karma, obviously it's not the case that karma itself has a color and some of it is white, some of it is black. It is called white karma. White karma actually refers to the karma we create when we engage in the 10 virtuous actions, when we practice ethics and morality. This type of karma results in a type of rebirth, a higher rebirth as a god or a human, and therefore results in a life where you experience much more happiness. So it is from the perspective of how much happiness is in the result that it is called white karma. And then on the other hand, we have the black karma, which is the opposite of this. It is karma that is created through the 10 non-virtuous actions. It results in rebirth in the 3 lower realms. And of course, these are type of existences where they have intense suffering. So from the point of view of how much happiness or suffering comes in the resultant state, we talk about karma as being white or black. So here, when we talk about karma, we talk about contaminated karma. So that does not include neutral karma or uncontaminated karma. Okay, so the text continues. For this, we must consider the 4 aspects of karmic law. So here we're looking at classifications in this presentation, and there are 4 main principles of karma to consider. First of all, that karma is certain. Second, that karma multiplies. Thirdly, you cannot meet with karma you have not created. And fourthly, karma that has been created does not go to waste. And these 4 principles of karma is something that we need to consider because this is something that we need to meditate upon. Now, in terms of the different types of karma, we can find in specific texts such as Abhidharma and other texts very extensive presentations, such as, for example, the 15 different types of karma. To give you an example of these additional categories, karma that is created but not accumulated, karma that is both created and accumulated, karma that was not created but was accumulated, and karma that was neither created nor accumulated. So there are various permutations like this that make up lists, increase the list of different types of karma. However, the first aspect, as the text says here, positive and negative deeds plant seeds that will bear respective fruits. I.e., goodness produces future happiness, and unwholesome deeds produce future suffering. So this talks about the first principle, the principle that karma is certain. Karma is certain here indicates that if, for example, you accumulate meritorious karma by engaging in the 10 virtuous actions, if you activate that meritorious karma at the time of your death, then in your next life, it is certain that you will have a good rebirth, let's say, as a human. So we have that certainty. Whilst on the other hand, if you engage in non-virtuous activities, you activate this sort of karma at the time of your death, it is certain that the rebirth will be a negative one, a low rebirth. So the text usually here bring this example that we have already mentioned, that if you plant chili seeds or something hot and peppery, the fruit that you will get growing out of this will be equally hot and peppery. It's not going to be anything sweet. So in terms of talking about the certainty of karma, there is one verse in Entering the Middle Way that talks about the different way that a glass filled with water is perceived by different beings. So a human would look at this and say, oh, this is a glass filled with water. A hungry ghost would look at this and say, oh, this is a glass that is filled with pus and blood. And God will look at it and say, oh, this is a glass that is filled with nectar. So this particular perception is due to the power of karma. This verse and this presentation is something that is always debated quite a lot in the monastery, like what exactly is in that glass. The humans perceive it as water. The hungry ghost as filthy substances. The gods, they see it as nectar. So is there some valid perception? Who has the valid perception about the liquid within the cup? So there's a lot of analysis about this. But as we say, the landing point or the final point of this debate is that humans, according to their karma, because of their karma, they will see it as water. The hungry ghosts, because of their karma, they will see it as pus and blood, and the gods, because of their karma, will see it as nectar. Okay, so although we say that everything comes under the power and the influence of karma, Geshe was saying it's also inaccurate to use the term loosely and say, oh, this is my karma, or this was their karma for this to experience, because then we tend to overuse the term karma. So Geshe was saying, for example, you go out and it's raining and you're holding the umbrella, let's say with your right hand, which means that your head and your right shoulder is protected, but the left shoulder is exposed. And the left shoulder gets wet, especially if it's a bit windy. And then people say, oh, that was your karma to have the left shoulder, exposed to the wind and so forth. So, don't go there. This is a bit annoying. So definitely when we talk about karma, we can talk about the external environment around us, which is what we use. And we can talk about the user ourselves who inhabit this environment, and actually we can enjoy all that. And definitely there is a karmic connection between those things. On the other hand, Geshe was saying, look at my example. I am not from Singapore. I came all the way from India. And here I am giving teachings to you, and we have the opportunity to discuss Dharma. Definitely, this is the result of some previous karma. There is some karmic connection there. But exactly when and how did we accumulate this karma to be able to come together in this way? Only a Buddha could tell. So to summarize here, one might ask the two main questions. Does karma exist? And secondly, is karma true? For the first one, does karma exist? You don't have to go very far. Just check your own body. How come I came into this life with this body, with this capacity, with this intelligence, with an appetite for practicing and studying Buddhism? So I must have created this karma in my previous life, and this is how and why I came in this life with this interest and with this capacity. The second one, is karma true? Is it infallible? And we say, yes, it is infallible. Once you accumulate all the various conditions, the causes and conditions together, the result will be produced. So in that sense, it's true. It is infallible. So, for example, in the field, if you have the seeds, if you have the fertilizer, if you have the right temperature, if you have the water, you combine those things, of course, you will get something growing out of the combination of all this. And this shows that karma is 100% unfailing. It would be untrue if you had all the causes and conditions together, you planted everything, you fertilized, you water, and nothing whatsoever grew. Then you say, oh, it's not working. There's no result after I put together all the causes. But it's not like this.